He's worked with major labels like Sony Music and Big Machine Records. He's seen firsthand what separates those who break through from those who get overlooked. And I also like to call him the fixer because he is hired by big companies to go in and or go out on the road with an artist and figure out why they're not selling as much merch or why one artist is having more success than another. As the founder of Music Industry Blueprint, he's helped thousands of artists and industry hopefuls stand out in one of the most competitive spaces in the world. Today, he speaks to students and educators on how to get hired, build real-world value, and create opportunities in an ever-changing industry. So help me welcome Rick Barker.
First off, let me start by saying that there is no reason that I should even be allowed to be on this stage or even be here because of what I tried to do to myself from the ages of 18 to 22. It was on April 4th, 1989, that I got on my knees and I had asked God to let me die. I had been struggling with a cocaine addiction. I was the kid who went to 7 different schools in 10 years, 3 different high schools. Sophomore, junior year, the Christians and the jocks took me in. I lived in Alabama at the time, so I played sports and went to church. Moved to California to live with my dad in the 12th grade, and the stoners took me in. I don't even know if they still use that term, the stoners, anymore. I'm 58 years old, but when I was in the 12th grade, I ended up hanging out with the stoners, and that's when I ended up going down this journey that I went on. So at the time that I was doing what you guys are doing, I was doing everything I could to destroy my life. I felt that there was no way that I could quit on my own. I felt that there was no way that I deserved anything at that point. I don't know if anybody's ever felt that sense of hopelessness, but that's what I felt at that particular time. Now, the reason that I share that with you is for a couple reasons. One is that your past does not define your future. I am absolute living proof of that. The other thing is past mistakes don't define your life. They're like a page in your book. They don't have to be the whole book. So if you or someone you know is struggling with something, I just want to let you know that there is hope. I am living proof of that. I share that everywhere I go because a lot of people think that because of where I ended up, that the journey to get there was just, flowers and puppies and everything was great. That's not a lot of our stories. I grew up on the free lunch program. I grew up on food stamps. I didn't realize that I was different until I was in junior high. Because when we're young in preschool, elementary school, everybody's just happy to have friends. And then when we get to junior high, now everybody starts pointing out the things that are different about everybody. It's like one of the most vicious times in the world is junior high. Then when I got to high school, because I kept moving around so much, I never really truly understood who I was. So I would just kind of go where everyone wanted me to go. And that's very dangerous. Because what I learned a long time later is that weird actually wins because one, most people aren't willing to do it. So that eliminates a good part of the competition. But what I had to do because I had really just blown my life for the last 4 years is when I got sober is I immediately went and got my GED. Anybody know what the GED is? The good enough diploma. Yes, got the good enough diploma. But what happened is that I was never a good student. I'll just be honest. My report card was A's and eligible. If I liked it, I got an A, which usually had something to do with home economics or PE or something, and then eligible was just to keep me on the soccer field. But I always loved to learn. And at that point, the only way to learn was by actually doing. We didn't have the internet. Heck, we didn't have computers at that time. So I realized that what I wanted to do, my whole goal growing up, from the first time I ever heard, and there's probably only about 5 people in this room that's going to know this reference, when I heard Casey Kasem on the American Top 40 Countdown, I said, that's the guy I want to be. I want to be on the radio. So what I would do is every Sunday I would take a cassette. Do you guys know what cassettes are? Okay, all right, good. There's an archive here somewhere that might be able to show you a cassette if you need one. Is I'd put the cassette in, and it was a boombox at the time, and I'd press record. So then I not only had the 40 coolest songs that week, but I also had Casey. And I could practice to be Casey. So when I got sober, the first thing I did is I went and I grabbed an internship at a radio station. I ended up working with Rick Dees in Los Angeles at KISS FM. And anywhere that anyone would let me in to learn, I went. I went to community college because I wanted to learn psychology and human behavior and marketing. I didn't feel that I had the time to go get myself a degree because at this time I'm 22 years old, just turned 23 when I got my first job in radio in Santa Barbara. Coolest day of my life. I'm a year sober, I'm in Santa Barbara, everything's great. My AA sponsor tells me, says, listen, when you get to Santa Barbara, I want you to go find meetings. I want you to find good people to hang around with. Unfortunately, I was now 23 and I was single and I was in a town with a really cool college and my ego got in the way and I decided that I wasn't going to find a meeting. I was just going to go be the guy. On the radio, single. At the time, I was very thin, everything was going great. And I'm a year sober at that point, and I'm at this party, and somebody comes and they offer me a drink. And for whatever reason, I take it. They offer me another one, and I take it. And then I'm like, oh my goodness, I got to get to the radio station. So I'm driving. Santa Barbara's known for its one-way streets. I almost go down a one-way street. I bring it back. The next thing you know, woo! The lights come on. I'm doing my first sobriety checkpoint test outside of a place called the Alano Club. The Alano Club is where the AA meetings happen. So one way or another, I found the place that the AA meetings happened. It just happened for the wrong reason. So I chalked that up as bad luck. Ended up having to turn myself into jail. Did 17 days. March 17th, 1992 is my sober birthday. I've been sober for over 34 years now. And what's interesting about that is everyone goes, your sober birthday is like on one of the biggest drinking holidays in the world, St. Patrick's Day. They're like, why did you choose that day? I said, I didn't. The judge did. So the reason that I tell you that is because now I go from poor, addicted, now I get to go to jail for the first time, incarcerated, and then after I got out of jail, I decided that I needed to figure things out. What I came to realize was that alcohol and drugs were just a symptom. The problem was me, is that I needed to fix me. I needed my ego in check. I needed to realize, get humble, get gracious, and it was from that day that things turned around for me. After I got out of jail, my AA sponsor had me coach his daughter's soccer team. They were 12 and 13 years old, and they were called the Miss Americas. That's what they thought of themselves. They had already run off 2 coaches. One of the dads hurt his back. They said, there's only 3 games left. Just work with these kids. It will be done. They're in last place. There's no way that anything's going to happen. But whatever reason, the Miss Americas and I really connected. I needed them to build my self-esteem back, and they needed somebody who would listen to them. I learned a very valuable lesson that day working with teenage girls. Just listen. You don't always have to agree or understand, but if you give them a chance to speak. And what I didn't realize was that was preparing me for something that was about to happen. The next thing you know, I get invited to coach a girls' high school soccer team. I go ahead. Every team I took over went from worse to first. Don't know how that happened. Maybe, maybe not. I'm just going with the flow. So I spend 2 years coaching girls' high school soccer. I tell everyone, I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, but I do speak teenage female. Some of you might look at that and go, oh, I know exactly what you're thinking there. But what was interesting about that is the whole time that I'm now doing radio, my passion and my dream, I'm coaching, I'm giving back to the community, and I start working with bands. When you're in a small town and you're on the radio, you're like famous, because there's nobody else that's, hey, they hear you on the radio every day. They think you're the man or the woman or whatever. They don't know. But I was able to use my position to start helping bands, to start getting really involved in the music side. In 2001, right after 9/11, I was asked to build a country radio station. And I'm like, okay, my first chance to be a program director. And I looked at it like this. I'm in Santa Barbara, California at the time. I said, I grew up in Alabama. I knew who Johnny Cash was, so I was probably as qualified as anyone else to do this country radio station. Full disclosure, I was the guy that made fun of country music. Play the record backwards, you get your truck back, your dog back, your girl back. They used to make those jokes. But at this time, the world was in a much different place. And I started hearing the stories. I started hearing the things that were going on. So I ended up getting asked to be on a reporting panel. For those of you that understand radio, there's the regular radio stations, and then there's the reporting radio stations. The reporting radio stations turn in their playlist. So the record companies like those people because they can show how great their music is. So there was this guy by the name of Scott Borchetta who was working at a record company at the time. And because where I lived, in this small town right above Santa Barbara, Marv Green, who was a songwriter in town, Scott would always send me music. And I started listening to this music. And then artists started coming through on radio tour. You guys familiar with what radio tour is? Let me explain that real quick. So what happens is when an artist first comes out, for like the first 6 months, they go out building relationships so that later on, when their song comes out, hopefully they built enough relationships where the radio stations will add their songs. So as these artists start coming through town, I start asking questions. Now here's one thing I want you, if you take away anything, take away this. You do not have to be the smartest person in the room, but if you ask really good questions and you can create solutions, it pays really, really well. So as these artists would come through town, they would sit at the radio station, we would talk, we would have a conversation, and then they would leave and they would go on to the next radio station. Well, what I found where I was, they would go to San Diego, Ventura, Los Angeles. I was usually the last stop. So when they would stop, I knew they were staying all night that night. I'm like, hey, why don't we keep them in town and let them play? And they're like, well, they don't have enough material to play. And I'm like, I come from the rock space at that time. I'm like, wait, what do you mean they don't have enough material? Well, they can't play a show because they don't. I said, you signed somebody to a record deal that can't play for 30 minutes? They're like, yeah. Didn't make any sense to me, okay? That was my duh moment when I first heard it. I'm like, okay, that's not very smart. And I only have a GED, and I could figure out that that wasn't very smart. So then they said something to me, they said, but no one will know who they are. And I'm like, look, if I play the song, my audience hears it, I get excited about it, they'll come to the show. They're like, really? I said, can I try? So they were like, yeah, sure. So I put together what was called the Nashville to You radio tour, where I went and I called the radio stations and I said, listen, if I can get us an act at the bottom end of the chart, because in California it was real expensive to bring people out anyway. I said, if I can bring them out to this part of the country, would you put up 3 hotel rooms, $1,500 and dinner? And they said yes. So I called some of the labels in Nashville. I said, I got all these radio stations to pitch in and they're gonna pay for it. They go, what do you mean the radio station's gonna pay for it? They said, the radio stations charge us for all of this stuff. I said, well, who did you talk to? They said, the program director. I said, wrong guy. I said, talk to the sales department. The sales department will go sell that concert to a company, and then they'll make the program director play that song, which then makes it familiar, solves the other problem, because they don't want to lose the advertising dollars, because that's the only way that radio stations make money. And they're like, how did you figure this out? I said, I work at a radio station. The guy who makes the most money is not me, it's the sales guy. So they said, sure, give it a shot. So they flew me out to Nashville. I'm excited at this point. Fly me out to Nashville, put me up at the Lowe's. Ruth Chris, right below the Lowe's. If you've been down in the Wedgwood area there, you kind of know where it's at. So what happens is I come to town, I get brought to all the different record companies. I'm sitting with the VP of promotions, all these big wigs. Not a single one of them ever asked me where I went to college. Not a single one of them ever asked me what my degree was in. They just knew that I had figured out a way to solve a problem. Now the story gets even more interesting. I meet with all of them. They're all excited. I fly back to Santa Barbara. It's May. No phones are ringing. I'm like, wait, you told me how great this idea was. And they said, here's our problem. It's the summer. And all of our record promoters are out with our A-list acts during the summer running these meet and greets. I said, so I go and I ask another question. I said, so wait a minute. You signed this kid, now they have to sit and wait until you have enough people to be able to go out. They're like, yeah, that's just kind of the way that it works. I said, well, what if I take them out? Like, what do you mean? I said, well, I went and built all the relationships anyway. I'll take a week off, bring them out. So they send me this kid, his name was Josh Turner at the time. Long Black Train. I'm like, even I can't screw this up. So I call the label. I said, look, they can do merch. They're going to be able to play just acoustic shows. I got the hotel rooms. I got the money. They're like, he's brand new. He doesn't have any merch. I'm like, well, you got those pictures, right? That you guys, the tear-offs they call them. He said, yeah. I said, I'll have them sell those. He's like, what? I said, yeah, we'll have them sell those. People will buy it. He's got a stack of tear-offs, autographing them, selling them for $5 a piece. When he came to my little town, we took him, we cooked him tri-tip. We took him golfing. We took him and his wife wine tasting. So all these little towns were now making these experiences that were happening. And then they would get back to Nashville and go, you got to find this guy in Santa Barbara. He's awesome. He'll take you, he'll cook you meat. He'll give you wine. He'll play your song. You'll make money. So then the next thing you know, the phone starts ringing. And all of a sudden I'm taking out Little Big Town. And all of a sudden I get a call from Scott. Scott's like, listen, I need your help. He said, we've got this band. They're not quite ready to go out yet, but we don't know what to do with them. I said, okay. So he sends them to my office. They come to the radio station, and they're older, which wasn't working at the time. They're a little older. The lead singer's wearing a tank top, no bra. The other girl over here, and then a guy who's like balding on the head. I said, what's your names? They said, we go by Sugarland. So I said, okay. So I get them. I put them on stage that night. No one in my town knew who they were. Jennifer, everybody. I go, Scott, she's a star. They're amazing. And Sugarland continued to go out on that little radio tour that I had created. And a year later, they came back to my town and they took me to dinner and they said, thank you, because for that first 6 months, the only way we survived was because of what you did for us. About that time, Scott was getting ready to leave to go start his own record company. Now, I tell this story even when I'm not at the Scott Borchetta College of Media and Entertainment. He just happens to be a big part of my story because he saw something in me before I saw it in me. And what he saw was that I thought differently. So he calls me up and he said, listen, Toby and I are going to kind of split apart. I've got Big Machine Records. I'm going to give him the record staff. Would you come over and be a record promoter for Big Machine Records? And I said, Scott, why me? Everyone in town would love the opportunity to work for you. He said, I say this, and I mean it with all due respect. He said, you're just weird. You think different. He said, everyone else will use it as an excuse on why it won't work. He said, I've got Jack Ingram from Texas, Danielle Peck, who had been at another label who had been dropped. And he said, and I've got this 15-year-old that no one's ever heard of. So he offers me, at this time, radio is a passion job, just so you know that. So I'm living in Santa Barbara, making $75,000 a year in a combination of morning radio, coaching, soccer, and bartending. That's what I had to do in order to be in town. So I got 3 jobs to make $75,000. At that time, I was coaching at UC Santa Barbara, which I thought was funny, is that I ended up getting a job at a university. Yay me. We took that team, whole nother story, but they went from 2-17 to 13-7 the following year because I learned that you build around the person. You don't build a system and make the people fit in the system. And that's a whole nother topic and a whole nother conversation. But he flew me out. We met at his office. We met at his house, and he said, let's go to the office. I got this CD I want to give you. And he gives me this CD, and it happens to be Taylor at the time. He said, listen to this on your way back to the airport. Tell me what you think. So I put it in. I'm listening to it. I call him from the airport, and I said, listen, I said, the vocals aren't quite there yet, but the way this girl tells stories, I said, if we don't rush her, I said, I think it can work. So what he does is he hires me for $85,000 a year and health insurance. My wife said yes before I could. She said, yes, he'll take the job. She was all in at that point. So here I am going to this job in the music industry. Nobody ever asked me where I went to school. Nobody ever asked me where my degree was. I was able to start solving other people's problems, and that has stuck with me for a long time. So they send me Taylor. We go out on a radio tour. She wanted to learn. I wanted to teach. Once again, I spoke teenage female, so we got along really well. 6 months after that, they're calling me every night. So I'm living in Santa Barbara at the time. So it's Central Pacific. 10 o'clock here, 8 o'clock there. At this time, I have a brand new little boy. I got a little boy. And the phone rings, and it's her and her parents, and they're wanting to solve the world's problems. And I'm like, it's daddy time, leave me alone. It's like, nobody here has kids, probably this side. Okay. There's this fresh scent when a baby comes out of the bathtub that's life-changing. You just want to eat feet. It is like the most amazing thing in the world. So I'm like, I'm eating feet. You got to stop calling me at 8 o'clock at night. So I said, you guys go find a manager. Get out. Go find something. So they go. They meet with everybody in town. And all of a sudden, I get a call from her dad. He's like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, awesome. How's the management hunt coming? He's like, that's why we're calling. He goes, all the big management companies said no. There's some that just don't understand the internet, so we said no. And Taylor would like you to be her manager. And I said no. He's like, what do you mean? That's not what we expected during this call. I said, Scott, I have zero experience managing an artist. He said, Rick, we're not hiring you because you've ever been a manager or you think different. He said, you think weird. So this weird theme keeps popping up throughout my life. I'm like, weird wins. I started saying that a long time ago. So I said, well, there's a problem. You need to talk to Scott Borchetta because I work for him at Big Machine Records. So they call Scott. Scott says no. Then Taylor gets on the phone and she said, Scott, she said, listen, she says, no, keep in mind, she's 16 at the time of this conversation. Scott, I am going to be the biggest artist on your label one day. And you hate managers, but you love Ricky. They called me Ricky. She goes, you love Ricky. Wouldn't you want your biggest artist to be managed by someone that you like? He said, yeah, but he's our West Coast regional. So what I ended up doing, he said, okay, we'll try it. I ended up staying on as the West Coast regional while learning how to manage Taylor. So I'm on a tour bus. So I'm having to learn this business on the go. But that's what I learned is that if you are not afraid to ask questions, if you don't pretend that you know everything, people are willing to help you out. If you're willing to look someone in the eyes as we have a conversation, and if you're willing to look at someone and say, listen, let me ask you a question. I don't understand. See, a lot of people today don't ask for help or don't raise their hand because they're fearful of losing their job. And that's very scary. It's a very scary place to be in right now. So I end up accepting the job to be with Taylor. I did it from Santa Barbara. So I would drive from Santa Barbara to LA, catch a plane, land in Nashville, catch a bus, tour for 4 days because I had to learn how to be a manager, come back home for a couple days, do it again. So in 2007, I was gone 187 days. I weighed about 300 pounds. I had been missing birthdays. I had been putting my family aside in order to take care of Taylor and her dream. And I got on my knees and I prayed to God again. And by the way, I'm not here to put religion on anyone. That just happens to be part of my story. But I said, God, what's the plan? I said, on January 1, 2008, I'm going to become an instant millionaire. A manager makes 15% of what the artists make on the country music side. We had $13 million on the books. What I had done the first 2 years with Taylor, which had never been done, is they offered me a salary. So I made $150,000 a year as a salary, which I wish every manager was given that opportunity, but they wanted me to be able to focus on her. That's why my first book is called The $150,000 Music Degree. I got paid $150,000 to get my music degree, and most people are going to colleges and paying $150,000 to get a music degree. But I got to learn mine the other way. I wish I've toured this place. I wish that I had the resources that you guys had now when I started with her. OMG, we would have tore it up. I think sometimes that we don't even realize what's in proximity, but when Beverly took me on the tour of this place, we'll get to that here in a second, I was just like, I'm like chomping at the bits. I was like ready to go. So I decided that my dream was always to be in radio. But I also know, coming from divorced parents, being the new kid in school, I also did not want that for my kids. So I chose family over the money. I didn't realize the credibility that that was going to give me in Nashville because everyone was chasing money at that time. And I learned a very valuable lesson. Not all money is the right money. If your heart, if your passion, if it's going to affect you health-wise, family-wise, just don't think you have to take something because there's not another opportunity. There are a lot of opportunities that are out there. So I get a phone call. At this time, I had already told my wife, I said, listen, I want to move the kids to the South where manners aren't an option. We'll get no state income tax, and we can buy twice the house for half the money. It checked all the boxes. She says, okay. And that's good. If you can get a California girl to move to Nashville in June and you stay married, you're doing something right. Okay, so we get to Nashville, but I don't have a job. I had just walked away from this guaranteed thing. So, but I've never been fearful. I've always felt that if I can go in and solve someone's problem, then I'll be okay. I'll be able to make a living. So I get a call from Joe Galani. At the time, Joe was the most powerful person in Nashville. Joe was number one, Scott was number two. Their worlds never crossed. They came from completely different backgrounds. Joe from the sales side, Scott from the promotion marketing side. And I got nervous because Joe had this reputation of just being the guy. And I'm like, his assistant Donna called. She goes, Joe would like to meet with you. When is the next time you're going to be in Nashville? I said, in June. And now at that time, I was doing some consulting work for Kelly Pickler, who was on Sony Music, because I needed to make money. I had no job. I thought I did something wrong because Joe was calling. So I said, Donna, what's Joe want? She's like, he just thinks it's time you and him got to know each other better. I said, okay. So he takes me to lunch. I come out. I'm having lunch with Joe. And right in the middle, he said, listen, he says, not to take anything away from Scott, Taylor, what the label did. He said, you forget, you guys were out opening for all of my artists. So we were out opening for Kenny Chesney and Brad Paisley. He said, my team saw what you did with her. They saw the way that she reacted to you. They saw the way that you taught her radio. And I said, okay. He says, I would love to offer you a job as a consultant. So I excuse myself. I go to the restroom. I go in the back, call my wife. I pulled out a BlackBerry. We didn't have iPhones at the time. I pull out a BlackBerry. I'm like, Jill, go on Yahoo and type in, what does a consultant do? I said, I'm being offered this job and I have no idea what this job does. So she laughed like you guys did, because that's what wives do. And she said, well, they advise in areas of expertise and it looks like they get paid really well. So I sat there and Joe was like, listen, what I want to do is I want to have you as an outside consultant because there's certain rules that take place in our organization, major company like Sony. He said, but I want to give you the freedom to do what it is that you do. So I was the guy on the call that nobody knew was on the call. So I'm hearing this stuff. I'm putting together these marketing proposals. I'm giving it to the person that I'm working with at the label. They're paying me really good money. He offered me $100,000 for a 6-month contract. I like this consultant thing. Here I went from $150,000 a year to $100,000 every 6 months. And 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from another label in town that says, hey, I understand you're a consultant. I said, why, yes, I am. They're like, how much do you charge? I said, $100,000 for 6 months. Okay. I'm like, client number 2. 2 weeks later, get another call. Guess what they wanted to know? Are you a consultant? Why, yes, I am. Client number 3. I was making $600,000 a year when I had just walked away from the sure thing. But all of a sudden, I just believed enough in myself. But I also knew I was solving somebody else's problem. When you can solve other people's problems, they don't ask questions. But also a very valuable lesson I learned is you never know who's watching. I wasn't auditioning for Joe. I wasn't auditioning for Sony. But they were watching. Everyone's watching you guys all the time. People are looking to have problems solved that you can solve their problem. But if we sit back and we don't let people know that we're weird, if we don't let people know that we're different, all of you guys are the same. All your resumes will look the same because they were all taught how to write them by the same person. You're getting it, everything's the same. It's already crowded. I don't need the same as what we are. I need you. I need you to be different. I need you to raise your hand and say, yes, I can do that. This is what I've done. These are the types of things that I'm capable of doing, but more importantly, these are the things that I've done. That's all they were hiring me for. Not what I learned, not what I knew, but what I did. And that's what I tell people. I don't care what you know, it's what you do with what you know. Some of you know way too much, and you can't get out of your own way. Or you try to be perfect. Perfect equals broke. Because there's nobody who's perfect. So now I'm doing this, and now here's the cool part. Every single dad with a teenage daughter from Texas is showing up with a blank check and a girl in sundresses and cowboy boots ready to write me a check to make their daughter the next Taylor Swift. And I'm like, there's no shortage of daddies with money. There's no shortage of teenagers. That wasn't the secret. It was her work ethic. It was the things that we were willing to do different. Everybody said, why did you even ask Rick to be your manager? She said, well, I told him I wanted a gold record, and he said, great, let's go meet 500,000 people. I just did the math. But you need to meet about 1 million people in order to get to 500,000 people. But the problem with the industry was there was a system. You get permission, you get to go to radio. Radio decides if you're going to get played. Then they decide if your song tested well enough to keep getting played. And then after you get a #1 song, you might be asked to go out on tour with someone, and that's how people would find out about you. If we didn't hear it on the radio, we didn't know it existed. If we didn't see it on tour, we didn't know it existed. But the internet came along, and there was this little thing called MySpace. Taylor was just there talking to these people every single night. Thousands turned into 10,000s, turned into 100,000. And then this thing came along called Facebook. Facebook was only for college students at the time. I didn't go to college. Taylor didn't go to college, but her fiddle player did. So we borrowed her Facebook page in the beginning to start talking to college kids until we could get our own. Then YouTube came along. Then Instagram came along. Then all of a sudden, her record comes out. She goes gold in 13 weeks, which means she sold 500,000 copies. And everybody's like, how is she doing this? I said, because every night, there's this place that we can go talk to people. And no one, they don't know, they don't care. We don't have to ask permission. Think about it. Today, with this device, you're a multimedia mogul. You got your own photographer, your own videographer, your own PR, your own everything. You can put out fires with this thing. Not like physically water come out, but if there's a problem going on, you can put out fires with this phone. All of you are equipped to start doing what it is you want to do right now. How many people own one of these? You're all qualified. Congratulations. You're all qualified. How many of you know how to do this? Congratulations, you're all qualified. How many of you know how to do this? Congratulations, you're all qualified. How many people know how to ask questions? Everybody here can speak, right? Yeah. Raise your hands high. No tip. You're all qualified. Because that's all I'm looking for, is somebody who has a phone, who's willing to ask questions when they don't know what to do. You can get hired with just that skill set right there. Now think about this. You then come to me and say, hey, for the last 4 years, I've been at MTSU. These are the courses that I took. But more importantly, this is what I did while I was there. So I don't care what you learn. I care what you've done. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to share with you some of the things that you can be doing right now if you want to get hired. For the last 3 weeks, I've been interviewing people for a day-to-day manager job for one of the artists that I work with. The resumes come in, they all say the same thing. I know nothing about the person. I need to know who you are. What you've done is your superpower. How you believe is your superpower. Your heart is your brand. Everybody, I'll ask artists, I'll say, hey, what do you do? I'm a singer-songwriter. Congratulations. So is about 10 million other people. That tells me nothing. What kind of music do you do? Pop. What kind of pop? Pop could mean anything these days. I don't want you to be generic. I want you to be you. And I don't want you to sit and wait for permission. So after those dads kept coming to me, I realized I went to the internet and I started typing in how to get a record deal, how to find a manager, how to get a publishing deal. And the only thing that were showing up were like old interviews with Clive Davis or L.A. Reid or somebody sitting on a panel. Nobody was teaching anything. And I read a book called The Millionaire Mindset. And it said, if you can share your knowledge and experience with others, you can also make a living. And I'm like, well, holy cow, I've got at this time 20 years experience. I did radio, I did records, I did management. I'm a consultant, very well-paid consultant at that time. I said, but they want me to shoot video. And at this time, I'm about 270 pounds. I did not need an extra medium that was going to add 10 extra pounds to this body. So I'm like, I'm not doing video. I still have dark circles under my eyes from all the drugs I did in the 80s. I don't need to highlight that on video. And someone said something to me. They said, Rick, here's your problem, is you're so worried about what other people think. You should be worried about what knowledge you're keeping them from getting that you have. And he said, if you have something that can change someone's lives, it's your responsibility to find them, not their responsibility to find you. So I went and I bought a course on how to learn how to take my knowledge, my information, and I created this thing called the Music Industry Blueprint. So the very first event that I did, I went and I got an A&R person, a publishing person, a vocal coach, a whole bunch of people that no one could really get access to, publishers. And I said, I'm going to pay you $500 to come speak for an hour. I'm going to record it. I have no idea what I'm going to do with these recordings, but I'm going to record it. And they're like, we usually just get asked to talk for free. I said, no, your time is valuable. And that's that one commodity you can never give back. And I knew if I paid them, they'd show up. Because if you don't pay people, there's a chance they won't show up. So if I'm going to go advertise that Jim Catino from Sony Music is here, and Jay Frank at the time, when he was at CMT, was here, and I'm bringing all these people. So I went in and I said, I'm going to just open it up to anybody who wants to come. I charged $97. We sold 200 tickets. It's 20 grand. I paid $500 to each of the speakers. And at the end, I said, hey, if anybody wants these recordings, I'll sell them to you for $500. And half the room bought the recordings. And I'm like, that was quick. That was easy. And now I know that there's people out there that want this knowledge and this information. So that's how it started. And then I was always the social media guy. I'm like the guy, I'm 58 years old right now, and I'm probably better at socials than most of you because I grew up with it. Think, how weird is that a 58-year-old grew up with social media? Well, I grew up with a 16-year-old, and I had to learn all those things as we went along. So I created a course called Social Media for Music. I just started creating these courses. I started speaking at all these different conferences, and then I was able to pick my lane in the industry, because what I started to see, which was bothering me, was there was a lot of things happening at the labels that I didn't like. I didn't like having artists getting signed to labels, and then when the radio stations decided they didn't want to play that song, I had to be the one telling the artists that they were getting dropped from the label. I said, there's this thing called the internet right now. And we can go out and we can build our own audience, and we can duplicate and print up our own CDs, and we can just get direct access to these fans and start building that relationship. So that's what I got known as for a long time. And then just recently, Scott, I went with him. I did American Idol. He called me and he says, hey, I'm building a team to go to American Idol, when he was presenting it. And I said, great, who's on this team? He goes, just you. And Scott only called when something needed to be fixed, because I had already left at that time. So I went into American Idol and I said, top 24, I said, I got good news and I got bad news. I said, good news is one of you is going to get a record deal in 9 weeks. Bad news is none of you are qualified for it. My job's to help you do that. So I did that with him for a couple of years. I went up, did a TV show with him in Canada called The Launch. I was still consulting a couple of different labels, but I left the consulting side of the record companies because something happened. And it bothered me a lot. What I realized is they were paying me a lot of money. They were getting this information, but it was never being presented to the artist. And I was out on tour with Brad Paisley. The band Perry had hired me to come out. Kimberly wanted to know how to speak to a larger audience. We did 87 days with Brad, so I was very comfortable teaching her how to speak from the stage. So we're having dinner with Brad, and I said, Brad, did you ever get that proposal? And I listed off like 3 proposals that I had created. He says, no, I never got them. I said, really? So I went back to the guy who I was reporting to at Sony, and I said, listen, why is it? He said, Rick, here's the problem. He says, the managers don't understand it, so they don't want to look bad to their artists. I said, then let me come in. They're like, they still think you're a manager. I said, dude, if I wanted to stay a manager, I would have stayed with that ship that was going this direction. I said, the artist is the one suffering, because what I want you all to remember, who here is in the management program? Who wants to do management? Anybody want to do management? Okay. You get 100 careers. An artist gets maybe 2, one on the way up and maybe one on the way down. So you work for the artist. And what happened was, is because they didn't understand it, they didn't want to share it. And I said, okay, now I'm going all in. I could not be a part of that, because I'm always a manager at heart. Whether I'm an educator, whether I'm a consultant, I'm always thinking about the artist. I'm always thinking about the person that I'm working with. And I didn't feel that that was fair. So just recently, I get a call and someone wants me to come in and revamp their digital marketing department. This is 2 years ago. Originally, he wanted to eliminate the whole marketing department. And I'm like, wait a minute, you may have some superstars there. Let me come in, kind of see what's happening. So when I walked in, what I found out, and this is the part that's going to benefit you very much. What I found out is that the people that were there weren't qualified for the positions that they were in. Most of them would not ask questions because they didn't want to feel, they already got the job. So they just figured, hey, I can just do what the person before me taught me. Well, the person that before them had taught them wrong as well. So what was happening are basics like running Facebook and Instagram ads, they could not do. Open up a Spotify for Artist account, they could not do. Read data, analytics, they could not do. They could all sign on to TikTok. And that's what the guy did. He hired a bunch of young people in this social media department because he thought because they could turn on TikTok, they were TikTok marketers, and they're not. But they were afraid to say that they didn't know how to do it because they were afraid of losing their job. Well, who's being affected? The artist. Because the artist is going to sign these contracts. They're going to give over 85% of whatever they make, thinking that the place that they're signing with has qualified people in the building to do this. So as I'm sitting down with everyone and I'm going through this stuff, I'm like, what are the systems and processes? They're like, what's that? I said SOPs, stands for systems and processes. What was the onboarding like when you got hired? Well, we spent an hour with HR and they gave us our username and our password and our email, and then we just got put over here. And what I'm noticing is who they got put with, they'd been trained by someone who wasn't qualified. And at this point, I'm pissed. And I don't hide. I'm like sushi. I'm an acquired taste. You know, if there's something wrong, I'm going to say what's wrong. So I went and I said, we got problems. I said, these people aren't trained. They're afraid to speak up. So all of a sudden, there's an all hands on deck. If you touch marketing in any way, Rick's doing a workshop and you will all be there. And if you aren't, hand your keys off to HR on your way out the building. He was that pissed. So I go in, I sit down, and the first thing I did is I let everybody speak. People that they hadn't heard from. Intelligent, brilliant, great question, awesome. Can you do more of that? They had some information, but they were afraid to talk about it. I said, who here would like to learn how to do Facebook and Instagram ads? They all raised their hand. I said, great. Tomorrow I'll be here for 2 hours. It's not just boosting posts, but this is how we get the artist more exposure, is by being able to do this. How many people would like to work for a label? Just show of hands. Okay. If you can shoot video, edit video, post to socials, and use a little bit of AI, there's a $50,000 job waiting for you today. But what I want to challenge you to do is not wait till you graduate to do it. Do you know how many bands are in this school? Do you know how many people could use management help in this school? Do you know all the tools and resources that you have to make really cool stuff? I mean, I walk around that building out there and there's all kinds of cool things that you can be doing right now, so that when you walk in for this internship or you walk in for this job, I'm a graduate at MTSU and this is what I've been doing for the last 2 years, 3 years. These are the bands that I helped. These are the departments where I wrote the press releases. These are the ads that I ran. Raise your hand, all of you. Hi. Repeat after me. I have permission to be a badass. You've been granted permission. Now you don't have to wait anymore. Do not wait for someone to validate you. Validate yourself. Too many people are waiting to be chosen. I just walked in and said, hey, I can solve a problem. Well, let me ask you, Rick, what's your degree in? They never asked that. Where'd you go to school? I was a drug addict for 4 years. I don't think the places I was hanging out qualify. I learned a lot, by the way. I learned how to hustle. You know, that work went a long way. But what I did was I said, listen, when I got done, when I got sober, now you know what? They lean in when I say that. Because I didn't walk in trying to be perfect. When I stepped out here today, be honest, and I started with the lowest part of my life, who here said, oh, this guy's just here to bullshit us today? He's just going to come in and talk about Taylor and talk about this. And no, that's not how it works today. Because you can get that from anyone. What I came to say is sit there and say, look, when I show you my most vulnerable self, now all of a sudden we can have a conversation. Now we can talk to each other. Because I'm not trying to BS you, you're not trying to BS me, you're not trying to impress me, I'm not trying to impress you. There's a job that needs to get done, and I'm looking for people to get that job done. And what I decided to do, because I said, here's the thing. There's a reason why the universities don't move at the speed at which the world is moving, because of called accreditation. Every time they change one book, they have to go back and get something reviewed. So what they're going to do is they're going to give you the tools that you need in order to go out and be successful. But you have to go out and be successful. They are not equipped. That's why I'm the gap. What you have here, turn me loose. Give me a student ID card. I'll tear this place up. You will never see, you'd be like, what's he still doing here? Go get your band. Take them into the studio. Document what's happening in the studio. Post it on social media. So that way when you come into my office and I say, what have you been doing? I've been doing social media work for this band. I write their press releases. I do their socials. I post it on their socials. I'm like, you are like 10 steps ahead of all these applications and resumes that all say the same gosh darn thing on them. That's what I want you to start thinking about. Go to your professors and say, hey, who needs help? What can I do to help you out? This is what I want to do. So, does any of that make sense? That's the problem, I think, is we can come in and say, okay, you got to do this, and you got to do this. And when I called Beverly, she was like, when can you get down here? Let's talk. So I went and was an adjunct. I wasn't even allowed to be an adjunct at Belmont, because I didn't go to school. But they would bring me in to like do 6 or 7 weeks at a time. But they would never, so the other guy had to get paid and then he had to pay me on the side kind of deal. But I'm like, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. This part of my life, I read a book. You guys don't need to read it yet. It's called From Strength to Strength. And it's by Arthur Brooks. And it's define success, happiness, and peace of mind in your second half of life. So at 58 years old, I am definitely in my second half of life. Maybe soon I'll be able to order hips or hearts or brains or anything like that. But as of right now, I'm looking at the reality that there's still a chance that I can head out. So what I wanted to be able to do was I said, instead of the labels paying me stupid money to come in and fix there, I want to go in and start doing my part to fix here. I want to start going into the schools. And the Canadian government, they're paying me really well. I'm going to 15 universities and I'm going to speak about, being a drug addict and, the motivational stuff that they like to hear. And then the next day I'm going to be doing workshops. And I'm going to teach the skills needed to be hired today. I'm going to teach people how to talk. I'm going to teach people how to take the time they have now without adding more time to what it is. You guys are all pretty busy. Most of you have jobs. Most of you are working. Most of you are possibly working 2 jobs, plus you're taking a full class load. But if I could show you how to start doing some things today that would help you in your pursuit of why you came here to get your degree in the first part, would that interest you? That's what I want to be able to do. That's what I want to be able to share. And the whole thing for me is to not come up here and just say, hey, look at what I did. No, I was blessed. I was blessed because I had some great mentors, but I was also blessed because I got over the fear of asking questions and asking for help a long time ago. Because I don't really care at this point. As long as you can get the job done, I don't care what your pronouns are. I don't care that if you grew up poor. I don't care if you had a DUI. I don't care if you flunked out. I don't care. I care about the human person. Because if you can solve my problem, I don't really care about that. When I go to a doctor, I don't sit there and go, Doc, let me ask you about 27 different questions. No, can you fix this? Yes. Are you good at what you do? Yes. Did you go to a lot of college? Yes. Okay, good. There are certain parts where, I want to make sure I'm not going to be that guy. But what I want to help you do right now, and this is where it gets dangerous, is that I would like to help 2 people right now explore what they could be doing for the next little bit of time while they're here to prepare themselves to be hireable in 90 days. Who would be interested in learning how to get hired in the next 90 days? Okay, perfect. Who's the youngest? Is there a freshman in here by any chance? You're the freshman? Okay, can I borrow you? Okay, come here. We're going to start with you. Then what I'm going to do, if we'll bring the microphone up, you can just stand right there. I'm not going to hurt you. Yeah, let me get this. How many of you are using AI? Don't lie. Okay, I'm going to show you how to use it ethically. I don't want you to use AI to teach you. I want you to use it as a thought partner. I want you to be the thought leader. AI has made me an absolute fortune because I learned how to talk to it, okay? My wife asks me sometimes, she goes, who wrote that? I'm like, that's my AI talking to me. That's a whole nother story. But what I'd like to do right now is I use ChatGPT as my thought partner. I use Claude for a whole bunch of other things. I'm going to talk with Beverly and some of the other folks. I would love to do an AI workshop for you guys to show you how to use it to get some time back and also to be able to figure things out. So first off, what is your name?
My name is Kelly Reed.
Kelly Reed. All right, Kelly, and you're a freshman, right?
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you some questions. So what I do, I've got readers too, by the way. They'll come on, they'll come off. I can see a blonde hair on a camel from a quarter mile away, but I can't read a text message or a computer screen, so I'm really bad. Okay, so what I do is I talk to it. There's this formula called CRIT, C-R-I-T. Context, the role, the interview questions, and then the task. So what I'm going to do, and this is super important. Actually, I might need you here because, you know what? Come up here. We'll talk. Okay. All right. So I'm going to record it. Now, the reason that I'm recording it is not to get her voice to send to her mom, to get him to send me bail money and pretend that she's in jail. Okay. That's a lot of what you're hearing right now. I wanted to learn her tone. I wanted to learn her pauses. And I type terrible. So, and it doesn't even matter if we misspell. Okay. So, okay. What's your name again?
Kelly Reed.
Okay, so this is Kelly Reed. She is a freshman at MTSU. What do you think that you might want to do in the music industry?
I would want to work in a record label, either in like the creative department or A&R, or I would want to do artist management.
Okay, what are you doing right now to move towards that?
I'm involved in Match Records, which is our student-run record label. I do social media, and I run like an HQ page for one of our artists. Her name is Raven Hinchy. So that's kind of the new trend right now, is to make like an undercover fan page.
Got it, okay.
Yeah.
So what do you have access to here at MTSU that could help you? Equipment, students, artists, studios, social platforms, you mentioned a lot of that already.
So Match Records.
So you're using the resources?
Yeah.
Congratulations, okay, perfect. What part of music, not the business, but music excites you the most?
I love the student artists we have here. I think they're really great. But I also love creating the content for them.
Okay, what type of music do you listen to?
Like alternative, indie rock, that
Okay.
kind of deal.
If I gave you 90 days, what could you realistically start doing right now?
Probably just continuing that like HQ train I'm doing.
Okay.
Just running more for more artists here.
Okay. Now I'm going to talk to her real quick.
Okay.
So what I would like you to do is I would like you, based off everything that you just heard, I want you to help me write a resume that will stand out. If she's one of 100 people walking into a record company today, what from that conversation is going to make her stand out? Give me that before you give me the resume, and give me any other questions you think I need to ask her in order to get the results that we want. So then I just hit stop. Now it's transcribing it, which is awesome. And then as soon as it's done, I hit here, and it's already given me the information. This is fire, Rick. It gave me the fire emoji. This is exactly how you make this moment land. I'm going to give you exactly what you asked for in a way that works live on stage. So I told it today, I said, I'll be at MTSU. I'm going to do a live interaction with the students. Give me some questions for a freshman. Give me some questions for a senior. I am going to full disclose and tell you when it tells me I'm crap, when it tells me I asked the right questions. It doesn't know that I'm with you, but I'll tell it here in a second and you'll watch. What makes Kelly stand out from that conversation, say this loud after ChatGPT responds. Here's what makes her different already. Standout signals. She's already working inside a student-run record label, Match Records. She's not just posting, she's running a strategy, HQ fan page concept. She understands fan culture and behavior, huge for A&R marketing. She's actively working with real artist, Raven Hinchy. She's creating content, not just consuming it. She has a specific taste lane, alt indie rock. Here's the line it wants me to tell you. She's not telling me what she wants to do. She's showing me what she's already doing. What's missing? This is where I get to add value. Now, here's where she can separate herself even more. No measurable results, no growth, no engagement, no impact. No clear ownership. What did you specifically do? No strategy language yet, no documented case study. This is where most of you are right now. You're doing things, but you're not positioning them. You're just writing a resume that says, I did this, and I did this, and I did this. If I were rewriting her resume to stand out, it would sound more like this. Kelly Reed, aspiring A&R creative marketing, artist development focus. Bless you. Relevant experience. Match Records, student-run label, artist marketing and fan engagement, developed and managed HQ style fan pages to stimulate and grow organic fan communities around emerging artists, created and executed content strategies for student artists focusing on audience engagement and identity building, collaborated directly with artist Raven Hinchy to support brand visibility and fan interaction, leveraged social trends and fan behavior insight to increase engagement and cultural relevance, actively participated in artist development through content creation, positioning, and audience connection. Sounds very different than what you're normally going to read. But it's all you. You know what I'm saying? It's like you just didn't walk up and start reading your mind and extracting all of this stuff. So use it as a thought partner. So all I'm going to do right now is it's given us a whole bunch of other stuff, but what I'm going to do is, just so you know, I'm live on stage with her right now. So if you come back and say bad things about me or embarrass me, I'm going to have to share this with them in real time. What I would like for you to do now is I would like you to give her no more than 3 things that would take no more than an additional 2 hours a week for her to continue to grow towards what it is that she wants to accomplish. Also, if there's any areas that you think that she should focus on while she's here, classes she should take, people she should get to know, we would like to know that as well. There we go. Here it is. Now this is happening in real, this is how fast this happens. Because what this has is I've spent about 1,000 hours in it. So it knows me, it knows what it is that I'm wanting to do. But what it does is it has access, it can read like 2 million books in like seconds to kind of find things out. So I just want to speed up this process. So here's the things for you. Kelly, you're already doing more than most freshmen. This is about small, consistent moves that compound. 3 things, under 2 hours a week. Turn your work into a mini case study. Each week, capture 1 goal. Increase comments on Raven's posts. For example, 2 to 3 actions you took, HQ posts, hooks, formats, 1 result, comment, saves, follower change. Keep it in a simple document. After 46 weeks, you have proof of impact you can show. Run 1 tiny experiment. Pick 1 variable and test it. Hook styles, posting time, caption format, short form versus carousel. Log what happened. Over time, you'll be able to say, here's what works and why. So now you're just not thinking, you're telling them, this is what works because I did the work. Offer something small, content idea, fan engagement, where to focus while you're still here, digital marketing, social strategy, analytics, Spotify for artists, platform insights, content production, branding and storytelling, people to know, leaders and artists inside Match Records, students who are strong in video editing and data, a professor or mentor who understands marketing analytics, how to use the campus, treat Match Records artists as real clients, use studio equipment to test content ideas quickly, collaborate across departments. Bottom line, keep doing what you're doing, just measure it, test it, and connect more. In a few months, you won't say what you do, you'll be able to prove it. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. In the back, yes, you. You may have taken the very last seat in the room, but I saw you raise your hand earlier that I said, who would like some help? You were the first hand that raised up, so come on up. All right, don't be shy. I just proved I don't bite. Does everybody see how easy that is to do that? Yeah, it's super simple and easy. And then what you're doing at the end too is a little trick that I'll teach you is let's say that you know you're going into, we'll just use Big Machine Records for example. I'm meeting at Big Machine Records. Take the job description, post it in and say, ask me specific questions to show me and reveal to me where I'm qualified for this position and help me write a cover letter or a resume that's going to stand out. And it'll take, once again, it'll say, okay, here are the 5 questions, and it'll ask you specific questions. What's your name?
Tiana.
Tiana. Okay, Tiana, what year are you?
Junior, senior.
Junior, senior. Okay. All right. So this is Tiana. Tiana is a junior/senior. And what part of the record industry would you like to work in?
Music business.
Music business. Explain more.
Well, I started off as an artist of my own sorts, a singer-songwriter, but of course you said like what stands out.
We could fix that, but.
So I decided to go into the music industry to focus more on the business aspect because I wanted to make money quicker.
That's good that you stopped being an artist. No, just
Exactly.
Okay.
While I still want to do that as a hobby and a side passion because
Sure.
I love making music, I wanted to go ahead and get my foot into the business world as well. So I'm kind of looking into marketing because I like to create. I like online social media platforms. So
Okay.
I like to make videos. I like to edit them. I'm starting my own YouTube channel. I do have my own YouTube channel.
Good.
So I have my own TikTok page, my own Instagram. I'm trying to create different platforms, become a content creator.
Okay.
And
now before we go into AI, can I give you one piece of advice?
Yeah.
Find one and become amazing at it before you just become mediocre at 4. So find the one that you're most passionate about. All of you, if you can go in and say, I can run Instagram campaigns better than anyone, no one's going to say, well, what do you know about TikTok? What do you know? And if they do, they're morons, okay? They're not going to say, they're going to say, great, you're my Instagram person. So what do you get excited about from a fan perspective when you see certain types of things? Because wanting to go get the bag is cool, and that's important. So, but if we can hone in more on what your superpowers are and what your skills are, we'll get there quicker. Because you said, I like to shoot video, I like to edit video. Mm-hmm. Do you know that I went on this website trying to find somebody to shoot still videos and things for me here it was like one of the group pages. I couldn't find anybody. Yeah, I couldn't find anybody. Do you know, you said you know how to use an iPhone, right? Yes, you. Yeah. Okay, come here. All right, stand right there. Okay, I'm gonna turn my phone on. I got the new iPhone 17. Okay, first off, I'm paying you to work for me, so you've now been hired, okay?
Oh.
So I need pictures of just us working together. Yeah, just move around, be dynamic, but then you can also put on your resume that you were hired as a photographer. That's why I pay. All right?
I see.
Okay, we don't have to go rent a camera. That's a nice camera. Okay, so we're gonna do some for Facebook.
Yep.
Then we'll do some for Instagram and YouTube. And then if you decide you want to slip in and do some videos too. By the way, you're working for me now. What's your name?
Paige.
Paige, thank you. Okay. All right. So just pretend like Paige isn't there. Okay. Okay. So real quick, what I want you to do is I want you to create some interview questions for Tiana because as you can tell, she's a little scattered right now, and that's okay, but I want some clarity because she has some skills that we can put to work immediately today, and she wants to get paid. So let's figure that out for her, all right? So here we go. So now I just hit the microphone. When they changed the dictate, changed my life because I was like, oh, yeah. Okay, so there we go. We just hit enter. Now it's going to come back. And loves me again. This is fire, Rick, the emoji. You're absolutely in control of this moment. It likes me a lot. Let's bring clarity to Tiana quickly, cleanly, in a way that helps her focus plus monetize fast. Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, good. All right. You only need 5 to 6 of these max. Your goal is going to get focus and direction, plus some immediate action that you can take. So I'm gonna start recording it. I'm gonna ask you these questions. Answer first thing that comes to your mind. Do not overthink it. The reason I like to talk is honest. Typing is trying to be perfect. You don't want to be perfect with this. You want to be honest. Everybody agree and okay with that? All right, good. Okay. Out of everything you just said, content, editing, social, what do you enjoy the most when you're doing it?
Content.
Perfect. What one piece of content you've created that you're proud of?
Probably a very, very viral like TikTok video of a Steve Harvey skit. That
Okay.
was kind of funny.
Okay, good. What can you confidently say you're good at right now?
Making people laugh.
Okay. Perfect. It said editing, shooting, storytelling, hooks, if vague. But I wanted her to say, I'm not going to make her give any of that. I just wanted to see what it's going to do for you. What happened when you posted your content? Was it views, comments, shares, growth?
All of it, yeah.
Perfect. If I hired you today, what would you do for me in the first hour?
Great question.
Does everybody see? And thank you. That's very brave because everybody wants to work in the industry. And one of my questions is, if I had you walk in today, what can you do for me? Now's the time to get that answer. You don't want to walk in a door too early. Your degree from here, especially from here in this town, the doors will open. But it's what you do in those doors. We can't protect you once we get you in the doors. So it's preparing yourself ahead of time. This was perfect. All right, let's see what it comes back with. It's going to help us clean this up. Okay? All right. I hired a good one, didn't I? I hired a good one. I'm going to have some good old content. It's going to get me more work. All right. Rick, that was perfectly handled. Seriously, you did exactly what needed to happen. You didn't correct her. You didn't overcoach her. You let the gap reveal itself. Now let's tighten what you do next in real time so you land this moment powerfully and move her and the room forward. What you do right now, next 60 to 90 seconds, you've already exposed the gap. Now give her clarity, direction, and a path to the money. Pause. Tells me, you're not behind. You're just not focused yet. We're getting coached. Okay, here we go. Now lock her in. All right, we're about to lock in. You ready? You said something really important. I'm good at making people laugh. That's not small. That's a skill. Reframe her superpower. Do you know how many artists need someone who knows how to make people feel something in 15 seconds? All of them. That's your superpower, okay? That's content, that's marketing, that's attention. Now give her direction. Simple plus actionable. So here's what I would do if I were you. Pick your lane. You're not music business, you're short form content for artists. Because when you walked in and said, I want to do the music business, I want to do music business, they have janitors at record companies that are in the business. You know, see what I'm saying? We have to get, yeah, you may end up in a place where we don't get to see your superpowers because you're looking for the money. And you're like, hey, that's the job, I'll take the job. I encourage you not to do that. Your age group now will probably have 14 jobs. When we grew up, it was 1, 2, or 3. But that's okay. But I'm wanting you to find what you're passionate about, what makes you happy. So we know making people laugh makes you happy. We know you have some skills that can make you money. Now, if we can take what makes you happy and your skills to make you money, we're golden. Okay. Instead of just making random funny videos, start making artists more interesting. Examples, take an artist and make them funny, make them relatable, make people want to follow them. Go find 3 artists this week and say, I'll run your TikTok for free for 7 days and show you what I can do. Then you track the results. Now you're not a student, you're someone who builds attention. Now answer the question that she couldn't. Circle back. If I hired you for the first hour, you'd look at my content, you'd identify what's not working, and you'd create 3 pieces that make people stop scrolling. Why? Because that's the superpower that you reveal to me that you have. That's a job. Now, thank you.
Thank you.
By the way, okay. So what's going to happen right now is that all of you are going to go to your chat. You can bail now. I won't make you anymore. Yeah. Okay. What I would love for you guys to do at some point is partner up with each other and do exactly what I just did. Did what I do seem real hard? No, I just talked to someone. I just asked questions. But I let chat run in the background so that it could pick up things, like it picked up her humor. It picked up right away the artist you were working for, the record label that you were working for, the radio. I mean, it picks up everything. So sit there and have a conversation with it. And what I'll do is I will provide a prompt list that I'll give to your instructors, and they can give it to you to kind of get these conversations started. But when you can sit down now and say, hey, these are the classes I'm taking this semester. This is what I want to be able, what can I do to get the best out of these classes? I'm also working a job. What can I do to help get time back? Use this as a tool to help you get your time back, not to say, hey, what's the answer to this? No, it's like if you don't understand it, like I don't understand a lot of things, I'll say, hey, help me understand this. I don't understand it. It will help you. Use it as a learning partner. Don't take away the learning that you're going to be doing yourself. That's super important that you do the learning. But you want to help it get you to the answer quicker, because we all don't learn the same, but unfortunately, most of us for the last 50 years have all been taught the same. And now what we're learning is that I can't read books. If I read books, I go to sleep, but I listen to Audible. I call my car the University of Ford, and I just listen to books. I listen to podcasts, and if I really like the book, I'll order it so I can highlight certain things. There's a book that I want all of you to get. It's called The AI-Driven Leader. That book changed my life. It allowed me to walk in. I started having golf cart conversations with my buddies who are CEOs. And I said, hey, what's the bottleneck in your business? And they would tell me. And then I'd turn on my little Chat GPT app, and it would take the conversation. After 2 or 3 holes, all of a sudden they're looking going, oh my God, this is brilliant. I said, well, you said it. All it's doing is taking your words and putting them into a context that we can all have together. So what I would like to do now for the time that we have remaining, first off, thank you guys for being amazing. I appreciate you very, very much. Is I want to answer any questions. If anybody's got questions, I want to be able to ask them. I'll stay after. What's your schedule like after this?
Mine?
Yes.
I've got one more class today later.
Later. So you could stay a little bit and keep working, take pictures if I'm doing for my, hired a good one. Okay, anybody have any questions? If you do, come to the mic. I'll be more than happy to answer it. If you want me to, do a little magic with you on ChatGPT, I can do that as well. I was told by Beverly that when people come and speak here that they always say MTSU students have the best questions. I need somebody to step up to represent your faculty. Questions, comments, concerns. Yes, sir. Watch your head. Whew. Good job, boom guy.
So this is
microphone. Go ahead.
Okay, so I have been a student leader here at MTSU. One of the things that I want to do is be a change maker and a problem solver for the music industry.
Okay.
I found a passion through people and through HR.
Okay.
And trying to push organizations and people forward so that they can push success and push what's possible.
Okay, come up here.
One of my issues
Bring that mic with you, because what you're saying is a lot of times we all want to change things. It's like, we want to change the world. We want everybody to not. I want to dig deeper with you. Yeah. Are you okay with that? Yeah. Okay, so, all right, new conversation. Introduce yourself.
I'm Ben. I'm a senior here at Middle Tennessee State University. I'm a dual major in commercial songwriting and music business. I'm currently applying for grad school in human resource management, and I'm working on studying for my SHRM SCP exam so I can be certified for HR. I've interned at Warner Chapel Music in admin and A&R last summer.
Okay.
And I'm currently looking for internships this year for human resources. It's a new jump for me, so I'm looking for what more can I do. I've been heavily involved in student leadership, involved with student government. I've been elected for 3 terms, and I've served 4. And I've worked in housing and residential life as a desk assistant and residential assistant.
Okay.
So I've been in student leadership for my whole college time in college, and that's really driven my love for people and change.
Okay.
And so my goal is to go into the music industry, work in HR on the business side, focused on what these roles called HRBP. And
HRB?
HRBP.
BP?
So HR business partners.
Okay.
You know, HR is going in a more business-oriented direction.
Correct.
And so I want to work on that business side. I want to drive change. I want to create change so that people can do more, be more effective. You know,
Okay.
working with AI, how do we can increase the efficiencies? So my question that I wanted to ask you
Yep.
was, one of the problems I have is I have all these ideas. I see all these problems. I want to go tell people, and I do, but they're sometimes too afraid to listen. How do
Why are they afraid to listen?
Because they think that, how do I explain that? They don't think, A, that I have enough experience sometimes.
Okay.
And B, they're blind to the problem.
Okay.
How do I get people to see the problems that I see? And how do I get people to want the change that I want to see?
Got it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and let AI answer this question. While it's doing that, I'm going to give you some of mine as well. So the first thing is no one wants to be changed. That's the first thing. So what we have to do is figure out how to insert ourselves into their conversation. So identify problems that they're having, because people all want solutions, but nobody wants you to have to believe what you believe in order for you to fix their problem. So that's the first thing. The other thing, we'll see while it's coming back. The other thing that I want you to understand is that it's really how you say things. If you start with a question, let me ask you this. You don't have to answer this, but if you go, let me ask you this. In your business, what's the biggest struggle that you have being an HR director at a record company? And then shut up. They're going to tell you. And now you're intelligent enough to know they are going to say something that you're going to be able to hone in on. You're going to say, you know what? I know exactly how you feel, because when I was at MTSU, I was part of this. Now you're telling them you've already created a solution. They're not going to stop you and go, well, how old are you, young man? They don't care at that point, because now you're saying, I know exactly how you feel. And when I was at MTSU, one of the projects that we worked on and that I oversaw, because I was in student leadership, it allowed me the opportunity to get hands-on and understand. They're listening now. They're not judging you anymore because you came with the solution to their problem. So here it says, does that make sense to everyone? Yeah, it's like they don't care what you believe, what you want to believe. They don't care about any of that. And honestly, they shouldn't. They care about themselves. They want to know, can you fix whatever the problem is that I'm having? So what we're going to do, they're resisting because you're bringing ideas without proof. You're pointing out problems they're tied to. So it's like telling somebody their kid's ugly kind of thing. You're asking them to change without safety. Reframe this. You get people to feel the cost of not solving them when they say what it is that you do. So when people ask me, they say, Rick, what is it that you do? I said, I help leaders find clarity when the stakes are high. No one's ever walked away. They're like, tell me more. And then I can say, could be Beverly is a leader. Could be a business owner is a leader. Could be an artist. It could be anyone. And they're like, well, how do you do that? And I say, well, I usually simplify what other people find complicated. And I usually do that through stories. I don't do a bunch of PowerPoints and a bunch of keynotes because I don't want to take the time to make them. I can get AI to make them for me. But I think that if you're up here looking, I'm a storyteller is what it is that I do. If you guys realize, I don't know, how many stories do you think I told you today during that presentation? Yeah. Did I lose your attention by telling stories? That's the same thing you're going to be able to do. You're going to go in, you're going to tell the story. You know, when I was a junior, when I was a senior, last year, I was brought in because they wanted an outside perspective. That's where it's going to work. Okay, what to do instead? Start to, right now you're saying, here's what's wrong. That creates resistance, bless you. Instead, hey, I tested something, here's what happened. Example, don't say, we need to change how we onboard. Say, I tested a new onboarding checklist with 3 people and it cut confusion in half. That's good. That's speaking HR's language right now. So shrink the change. Big ideas scare people. Instead of saying we should change the system, say, can I try this with one small group? People don't resist experiment. They resist overhauls. Good. Right now, your ideas feel like Ben sees something you don't. That threatens people. Your size could threaten people. So now you're this big guy that's coming in that everything you guys have been doing is wrong, and I'm Ben, and I'm here to fix it. They're like, sorry, Ben. We're good, which they're not. Flip it. I think this could make your team more effective. This could help you hit your goals faster. You notice the kind of words that it's using, things that, everybody wants speed. People support what benefits them, build credibility through micro wins. Last thing I'm going to ask it real quick. I want you to take on the role of head of HR at a record company. Ben walks in, fresh out of college. What are the first 3 questions that you're going to ask Ben? And then I want you to give me the strategies that he can use right now while he's still at MTSU to make sure that he has those questions answered and where he comes across as the person that you know that your company can't be without. Pretty good thing to ask it, right?
Good prompting.
Because now what we're going to do is I've had it, my son-in-law who actually graduated from MTSU, well, soon to be son-in-law in February, he was going to work for the TBI. He did the criminal investigation stuff. And I said, take on the role of this person. What are the 3 questions you're probably he's going to get asked? He nailed that interview because it can go to anything that's published. Head of HR, first 3 questions. Tell me about a time you improved how a team works and what changed because of it. What I'm testing, can you operate, not just ideate? Is that the right way to say it? Ideate? Okay. Whew. Do you measure before and after impact? And can you influence people without authority? 2, if you joined us Monday as an HRBP, what would you look at first and what would you do in the first 30 days? Do you understand the business of a label, artists, release cycles, marketing? Can you prioritize? And then the 3rd question, have you used data or tools, including AI, to make people or processes more effective? How Ben wins these questions start now at MTSU. Build 2 to 3 proof stories, not opinions, but with evidence. Do this in the next 4 to 8 weeks. The second one is create a 30-day HRBP plan for a label. Before interviews, prepare a 1-page plan. Meet team leads, blah, blah, blah. Number 3, show you can use AI for real work, not buzzwords. Do one simple project. Then say, here's how I reduce confusion. And the last one, translate your experience into business language. And that's exactly what you're going to be able to do. I appreciate you. You guys, I know you've got another class that you have to go to. I'll be out here, and if anybody wants to chat afterwards, but I thank you guys very much. And Beverly, I appreciate you for trusting me enough to get in front of them.
Help me thank Rick Barker.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you. All right.
Thanks, everybody.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay. The live workshop. You're welcome. Thank you.